video I'll talk to you about the major differences between the F10 M5 and the F90 M5. If you followed my channel or if you've seen my other videos on my channel before, went from an 2018 M550i to 2018 M5, F90 M5, now back in 2014 F10 M5. So anyways, driving wise, as you know, the F90 is 4-wheel drive, so the pickup on that thing is a monster. It's unbelievable. And so the pickup on this car is fast, but I mean it struggles in traction. This got the competition package, so it's 575, but on paper 575 horsepower, but in reality is over 600. As you can look up all the videos and reviews, and everybody who dynoed their car make well over 600 horsepower from factory. And this is a stock car. 600 is a lot of horsepower. You put your foot down, the traction control will let up, the car will struggle for traction, but once it takes off, so above 40, 45, 50 miles an hour, it'll dig in and actually fly. At that point, the difference between the F90 and this car is not big. Once they are rolling, the difference isn't huge, but from a stop, the difference is very big. Both engines are basically the same, just higher compression, more beefed up stuff, more fuel injection, etc. to make that more horsepower. Because I think the F90 makes 600, exactly 600, but on paper, again, obviously in reality it makes more than 600. The other difference is the transmission. So this got the 7-speed DCT double clutch transmission. It's not that. The F90 got the ZF 8-speed transmission. When you're at a stop, you lift up your foot from the brake, the car will creep up like a normal car. You don't get this here. You lift, if you're on an incline and you lift your foot off the brake on this car, it is gonna roll. Forward, backward, however the inclination is, this car will roll just like a normal car, like a normal 5-speed car. If you leave the brakes, the car will roll. This does exactly the same. See, like I'm at a stop, if I leave the gas, the brakes, it doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there. And then when you want to take off, you give it some gas and it's, it jerks a little bit and launches. So when you're parking in a tight spot, it's a little bit hard. You have to be really careful, because when you give it gas, the car doesn't move quickly, so it tries to move, it tries to engage the gears, the clutches, but it's not, very smooth like a normal. If you're manually, you would do it better. You would do a better job manually. But it takes a little bit of time to get used to. So if you're trying to move forward in a tight spot, trying to park, you give it some gas, you feel it not moving much, and then you give it some more, and then the car launches, it jumps. So you have to be really careful. If you're in a tight spot, you might hit something around you. So, but otherwise, drivetrain wise, transmission, this is the biggest difference. The other difference, inside wise, the seats. In my other video, I explained the seats problem. These seats are way more comfortable than the F90. The F90 seats are so hard. The headrest here, like, there's not even a leeway in it. It's so hard. It's so weird. I don't know why they did it this way. For whatever reason, I don't know what they're thinking, but it is not comfortable at all. Not even close to this car. So yeah, that was the major letdown for me, and I had to let it go and ended up in this F90 here. This F10. Otherwise, the F90 is amazing. It's an amazing car, but yeah, I couldn't live with it. Driving so much, my butt hurts, an hour in drive, I find myself, lifting up my butt, trying to let the blood circulate. Pain, I take more frequent stops in that car than I've ever done in my life. And the other problem is, so now we're talking about the seats. They're not very comfortable. The other problem is then the road noise. The road noise in that car is insane. So you get a lot of road noise, and I don't know why. I mean, it seems to be insulated as much as this car is, but this car is just way more quieter, man. It's quieter. If I was driving that F90 right now, there would be a tire roll noise, and no, it doesn't have. F90 doesn't have run flat tires. No M car has run flat tires ever. So it's not the tires. It came with Michelin Pilot Super Sports, and yeah, I get it. Those have some aggressive tread to them or something. I don't know, but the car was loud, man. The car was loud, and the problem is when you're driving on a long distance road, in town and whatnot, short distance, when you go on the highway for a few miles and then in town for a few miles, you're not gonna notice it much. You have the stereo going on, blah blah blah. Especially if you're alone, you're not gonna notice it much. But when you're on a long road trip and you're doing mostly a lot of highway driving, and you have people in the car, somebody in the back, it was hard for them to hear me. To be honest with you, I had to yell for them to hear me, and especially if the road is grainy. Oh my God! If the road is grainy, forget it. You're not gonna hear them. They're not gonna hear you. I find myself cranking up the stereo more than half. The bar, the volume bar would go more than half, like almost 75%. I was like, man, this is insane. And I used to check. Okay, maybe something in the phone. I need to change the volume settings or whatever. But no, it was just the car was so loud. I had to crank up the volume way too much to actually hear and enjoy the music. I couldn't live with it on long distances. To be honest with you, it was just unbearable. Whereas in this car, it's way more quiet. Again, I drove this car from California to Texas. Put a lot of miles on. I can't even remember anymore. And I still do my long distance driving, and it's just way more comfortable. You can still hear the engine. You can still hear the exhaust when you hammer it. No problems. But you can hear people in the car, and they can hear you. You don't have to crank up the music all the way to hear it. You can normally, it's just normal. And yeah, those two things were the major letdowns for me: the seats and the noise, the cabin noise. And I know, some people will disagree, but the thing is, when you drive it long, that's when you start noticing these things. When you drive it for long distance, as long as your drives are short, like city, 10, 20 miles, I think you can live with it. I definitely can live with it if my commute was short, because that car was really amazing. But when your drive is long, that's the problem. Is you hear the noise. And when you hear the noise, you start concentrating on it more. It's really weird. I don't know if it's a human thing, or maybe it's just me. But I hear the noise, and I concentrate on it more, and it becomes more louder and louder in my brain. It's so weird. But anyways, I've had this car for a while now. Let me see. Probably like 7 months, and the noise in this car, it never ever felt like, oh, this is bad, never. No problems at all. But traction is another problem. So now doing 20. This was an 85 in no time. And this car is fast. Traction control That's the difference between this car and the four-wheel drive F90. Four-wheel drive is just amazing. The pickup is incredible, you know, and sometimes it's that split second that you need to actually get out of a situation, you know, or something, and that's when the four-wheel drive really helps. Because, you know, by this time, you know, traction control comes in, you know, your engine power cuts down a little bit, and you gain some traction, some speed, and blah blah blah. You know, it takes some time. Sometimes you need that time if you're that type of person that waits till last minute to do something. With this car, you need to account for your maneuvers. So, for example, if you're trying to merge on a road, if you're coming from a road and trying to merge on another road, but this road has a high traffic, you know, you need to make sure there is enough space for you to come out and accelerate, because if you turn right on a busy road and you think you can make it, you will not make it. Your traction control is going to come on and it'll cut power, and it'll take some time for the car to actually gain traction and starts going, you know. Once it does, it'll fly like a bullet, but it's that short amount of time that you need to account for. So your strategy, your thinking is different. You become someone who's like, oh no, I can't, you know, I have to wait a little more. Especially when you're coming out of a shopping center or whatever, and it's very common here in Texas, where you come out of a place, because the way the roads are designed, there is the highway and then everything is merging out of the highway, and there's like a service road, you know, next to the highway, and that takes you back in. So you're on the right side merging on that service road, and then the exit to jump back on the highway is right there as well. So you need to cross all these lanes on the service road to go on the other side and merge on the highway. You need plenty of space. So that's the biggest problem in this car. Traction. Other than that, once it gets up and going, the differences aren't much. So the other thing, when you come to a stop, both cars are relatively smooth, but the F90 is a little bit smoother, you know. The way the F90 tried to mimic the DCT with shifting, you know, shifting a little hard and a little rough, and you notice it, you know, when you accelerate and decelerate. But I think both cars are equally the same when you're in that kind of smoothness, you know. Maybe the F90 is a little bit smoother, but yeah, it's marginal. The other thing, as you know, all these new M cars, they have the fake sound, fake audio in the cabin for gives you the engine noise and whatnot. You notice it a lot in this car. So this is the F10 M5 is when they started pumping the fake audio. It wasn't there in the E60, and I think they did a pretty bad job with this car. I heard like you can disable it with some software and whatnot. I haven't tried that yet, but in this car you do notice it. You can hear it, and it sounds weird. It doesn't sound nice, you know. You can, it's like something, yeah, it's whistling, like, you know, it's like, and it changes notes. No, it's not a problem with the audio system. It's just the way the sound is pumped is just not. It's not as good as the F90. The F90, I think they perfected it more. You don't really, it's not so obvious like this car, like in this car here. It just feels more natural, to be honest with you, in the F90. You don't really notice it. You know it's there, but you don't really notice it. But this car, you will notice it. And maybe I'll try to. Hopefully you could hear that sort of kind of like whistling noise or something. I don't know, but it's not a turbo noise, and it's not. It's just a fake audio. And from a stop, it's more noticeable because, you know, there's less road noise. Other notable differences between the two is steering. Now I know new M cars, let me talk about M5s. To be honest with you, this car, I find the steering feels better than the F90 in this car. I feel more feedback, and it's substantial. The F90 was so numb. You just review of that car, I remember saying it's like you're driving a fast bubble. You know, you feel so isolated from the road. You're just like giving it direction, steering it around, but there is no real sense of the road in that car. Whereas in this car, and I know this is competition package, and it's got it does have differences in steering ratios and steering programming, and I think the steering column is different in this car, the competition package, over the normal F10. But comparing to F90, I don't know if the F90 competition is just as good or even better than this. I don't know, but this car definitely feels much better than the F90. So anyone who's asked me about, you know, should I buy an F10, I always recommend getting the competition package. Everyone I know who had an F10 and a normal one, they ended up getting a competition package later, like replacing it with a competition package, because it does make a difference. You can feel more feedback in this car. Like I can feel the road surface when I go on a small stone or something. I can feel it in the steering wheel. If the road has angulation, if the road has like lines and whatnot, I can feel it. In the F90, I could not feel that. You know, it was so isolated, it was insane. So that was a big surprise, honestly. I thought the F10 would be as bad as the F90, you know, maybe a little bit even worse, because usually I thought, oh, the F90 would be improved definitely, but no, the F10 turned out to be better than the F90. This is the major stuff I can think of, you know, interior, exterior. Interior, I'll link up the other video talking about interior and exterior. But driving dynamics, this is the most thing I can. This is like I can't find any other difference, between the two except these major ones: the drivetrain, the road noise, and the comfort level is way substantial. So, anyways, gas mileage. Obviously, you don't care, but gas mileage is about the same. I am getting around 17.6 miles per gallon. I used to get 21, but I guess I'm driving it a little more rough than normal. But nonetheless, in the F90, I was getting, I think, 19, 20, something like that. When F90 was brand new and in the braking process, I was getting 8 miles per gallon, and then started climbing up slowly, and it stopped around 19.5, 20, and I thought that was great for a car of that caliber, and that power. And this car, you'll get similar, maybe less, but similar. It depends on driver. Let's put it there. It depends on driver. But if you drive more on a highway, this would get around 25 miles per gallon. Easy. You're cruising at 75, no problems. But yeah. So this is the major differences between the two cars. Again, at a speed, you can't really notice. We're at 50 right now, and in efficient mode, put your foot down, 80, 90, 100, 110. It's crazy. These cars are just so fast, it'll blow your mind. So anyways, you haul for people, you put stuff in the back. Yeah, this car delivers. Anyways, hope you find this video helpful. Please leave your comments, subscribe, and I'll see you in another video where I will give you more details of this car. I will go in depth about this car, like a normal review and ownership costs, stuff like that. So stay tuned.